Moms with aspiration, moms are inspirations, moms in circulation, moms at their workstations. Mom, 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 they make a nation. Mom, this is a Mom Nation.
Hey, Mom Nation, it is Katie and Beth with More Than a Mom here, and episode 6. I am so super excited for this one. Beth, are you there?
I'm here. I'm excited too.
Hello. Well, this particular episode is how to calm yourself in a chaotic world. Boy, there's a lot of chaos out there, isn't there?
Yes, there is chaos in my house currently.
Welcome to mom life, right?
Yep, pretty much.
Awesome. So hey Beth, so who's the mom that has the question today?
So today's question comes from Crazy Busy Mom. She wants to know, how do you calm yourself when you are anxious about everything in your life? Dun, dun, dun.
Very good question. I think a lot of moms can relate to that. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. Like all the time.
So we have a resource with us, a very wonderful, very beautiful resource here. Jillian Holper, are you there?
I am here. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jillian, and tell the audience why we chose you to be on the show today.
So I am a clinical hypnotherapist and empowerment life coach. And I've been in practice, for almost 4 or 5 years now. And I do most of my work, really my specialty is with stress, depression, and trauma. So I would guess that is why you ladies chose me to help out with the show today. And it is just a huge passion of mine to work with moms and with stress and postpartum anxiety and depression and anything really in that realm is just an absolute pleasure and an absolute passion for me to work with. So I love it. And I'm really happy to be here.
Well, welcome. I appreciate it very much. I know Beth does too. Tell us give us a little quick synopsis of your background. How did you head in this direction and why?
I originally started out wanting to be a psychologist and really a child psychologist. But when I started taking a lot of my psychology classes, I realized that I probably could not separate myself enough and the limitations within the field, with the things that you get to support the children with. And yet a lot of the time they're still in so much trauma and your hands are tied with that. And I knew that was just not something that I could really live my life and be able to detach from when I was outside of my job. And so I decided I wanted to go a little more of an empowering route for me, which for me it was definitely life coaching. And when I got into the life coaching field, which I did by way of really just discovering my own strength and having my own traumas that I went through. And I have a 14-year-old son, and I think you ladies might know this, but when I was pregnant with him, I was in an abusive relationship, and I also got in a car accident. And the car accident was really a very serious car accident. I almost died, and I had to learn to walk again and rehab over the period of about 1.5 years total. And had a lot of health complications within that I actually still, deal with to some level today. And it's just, throughout those processes and throughout that relationship, for me at the time, I realized how important it was to take accountability for your own life and your own health and your own well-being and happiness. And how if we don't do that for ourselves, nobody's going to do it for us. It's never going to happen to us. And it's the hardest work you'll ever do. It's hard, but it's worth it. And so I knew throughout my experiences that I really wanted to try to help share that with people, which is why I wanted to be a life coach. I kind of started out in the psychology realm and then moved to the life coaching once I realized that I didn't want to be in a field that I couldn't best serve people, if that makes sense. So once I started going to school for life coaching and taking classes, I discovered hypnotherapy. And within that, I developed a whole new passion. I already did a lot of, meditation myself. And I kind of think of the deep hypnosis, at least. It's almost like meditation on steroids, is kind of how I think about it. And so, I just found a lot of passion in that, and I decided to integrate the two, and here I am today.
Awesome. Well, what a story. I can't believe, and this is not the first time that I've heard it, but how tragic is it to get into such a bad car accident with baby in belly? I mean, how scary is that?
Yeah, it really did. It shook my entire foundation, and the fact that, his dad, it was such a tumultuous relationship. And so there was just everything about the foundation of my life at the time was just, it was very, very difficult. I mean, talk about, stress and depression, right? And so, it's not just when I talk about, things that you can do that help with depression or stress or anxiety or anything along those lines. A lot of it I can speak not just from, my own training and my own background, but my own experience as well. So a lot of the time I know what it's like. I'm not just somebody that's saying something. I really have a pretty good idea. Everybody's situations are certainly different, but yeah, the stress that's in that, and I remember back then being worried every single day. I mean, and sometimes every moment of the day that, was he going to be okay? Was he going to be, born with this or that? And I mean, he was a miracle baby. He did end up, kind of later down the road with some autoimmune stuff, but he's a healthy guy today, overall. And so we were as lucky as could be, given all the situation.
Right. And that translates to your baby, especially when they're, in the womb. I mean, everything the mother feels, the baby feels. And so they're getting their start in life with that anxiety, kind of like, it's just kind of getting injected into them, for lack of a better word. And it also happens outside of the womb, especially when your children are so young, so attentive to you, and you're like the most important person in their lives. They're going to absorb that as well. Would you agree?
Oh, I could not agree more. In fact, Katie, I, being in hypnotherapy, a lot of the trauma when we do, some of the clinical work, which when I say clinical work, that's when we're doing hypnosis and we're discussing things under hypnosis instead of just the deep hypnosis where I talked about kind of like meditation on steroids, for lack of a better term, for those who have not experienced it. But when we're doing the clinical hypnosis, I cannot tell you how often things come back subconsciously and people don't remember, but there's so many times that people come back to being in the womb and something was going on with the mom and the dad or something along those lines. And they decided, they weren't worthy or they were a burden or whatever, just because of the mom's process at the time, which is actually a fairly human process, and so it's not anything to feel guilty about because we don't really know better, as parents, but it absolutely translates. And so if you can do something to kind of help empower and support yourself through that time, it is exponentially beneficial for the baby, that's going to be birthed.
Right. So it's not only a good idea for busy mom to kind of get a handle on this just for herself and just for, her own personal needs, but it's also really important for the needs of her children too. So what are the top, say, 3 things that you would share with this mom if she walked into your office and basically laid this on you?
And this actually shows up all the time in my office. And for somebody, especially that feels like they are, that they're just experiencing stress or anxiety in all areas of their lives, kind of throughout the entire day. what I've found is that usually translate, and we'll talk about some things that you can do, but I wanna let you guys know that it usually really does, and you can probably speak to this too, because we've all gone through times where we don't, but to self-care, really into having, it is so imperative to have some type of self-care routine where and I know we all hear this analogy all the time, but where you're filling back up your cup. Because, let's be honest, when you're not doing the things that fill back up your cup as a mom, you have to pour out into your children and your partners, and there's no choice that you have. That's not something you can or can't do. And so if you're not filling up your cup, it's literally draining your life force. And then at that point, it's causing you stress, depression, anxiety, health issues, whatever that might be. And so if you're doing the things that really take care of your mind, your body, your spirit, then you are so much better prepared to be able to have the energy to pour into your family. And so that's really honestly the main foundational piece, in my opinion. Yeah.
So if you could sum it up, and I know it's such a big conversation. We honestly could be on this podcast for the next couple of days. But if you could sum it up in what are your top 3 things that when this walks through your door, what are the top 3 things you work on?
So because, self-care looks so different for everybody, we'll usually talk about something they can do to support themselves on a regular basis. And, what I usually tell people is that looks different for everyone, of course. For me, I need I need some time in the morning just going out and being in my grass and bare feet. And I need regular Epsom salt baths. And I need regular, body work of some sort, whether that be, massage or, different types of things. But for somebody else, that might be hiking in nature. It might be, having a conversation with your sister on the phone. It can be a lot of different things. You kind of look at where you feel like you're feeling least supported, or you have that least amount of cup being filled up in your life. And you look at what does usually make me feel supported. And you kind of go from there, so it could be exercise, it could be meditation, it could be getting a little more sleep. It could be a lot of the time it's just sitting quietly with some tea after your kids go to bed, or journaling, whatever that is that you can commit to. You're not going to beat yourself up if you don't do it, by the way. So you want to make.
Well, let's talk. Sorry to interrupt you, but I need to hit the pause button real quick because something just popped into my head. Let's talk about what you just said. How do we back this up just one space, and how do we give ourselves the permission first and not feel guilty first to actually set aside some time for self-care on a daily basis?
That's such an important question. I will say that there's a lot that can help out, because there's so many subconscious reasonings to us feeling like we are not worthy to take care of ourselves first, or we're not able to. And a lot of those are subconscious blocks that we've kind of been programmed with. And so I do a lot with that in hypnosis, but on an actual conscious level, if you have to, you can come down to, just the cup analogy. Are you really able to best support your kids if you're not caring for yourself? Think about how when you're super frazzled, that's when you're doing the things that you're feeling short-tempered with your kids, you're yelling, you're feeling anxiety, you're shutting down, whatever your personality is, that's when you're going into those spaces. And, I think we all know that when we're taking a little better care of ourselves, we're in a better place to triage a lot of that stuff and to balance it. And so even if you can't give yourself permission for you, and I think the more that we have self-care, the more that we feel worthy to do that. But if you have to start somewhere, in that case, do it for your kids, because if you have to
Right.
do it for somebody and you can't do it for you to begin with, okay, then do it for your kids, because we all know our family benefits from us caring for ourselves. And even if that means, like I said, for me, it takes me daily care, or I will lose my stuff. So,
Right. And what I loved what you just said. If you can't do it for you, do it for your kids. Now, let's talk about the mom that walks through the door and she can't do it for her. What are those roadblocks? Why do we feel like that as moms?
I think that that's such a big question. And I think that it's multi-layered. A lot of the time, to be honest, our society has done a lot in the past. I know we are shifting more to where we're given more permission to take care of ourselves. But, in the past and when we were all growing up, that was not really something that was talked about. It was not something certainly that was encouraged by most people, and definitely not in most families. And a lot of that stuff was looked at as very frivolous and unnecessary. And if you grew up in a family that had any type of financial strain, your parents were not, at least your mom certainly was not doing those things usually, unless you had a very mindful family, right? So I know my mom always said, I can't afford those things. And yet, and this is not a judgment, it's a reality. What she did in turn to take care of her depression and her, that stuff that every mom deals with, whether it's depression or anxiety. And I'm telling you, we all deal with it. And so, she did the things that she needed to do to fill her cup, which was, and this is for most of us, we all have those problem habits, smoking. And so she spent money on that. And yet, if we had the self-care regimen, we wouldn't feel the same need to do that if it was from the beginning. Now, a lot of us have to kind of back out and look at balancing that, right? But that's the fact of the matter, because when we're doing those things, we're trying to fill our cup. We're trying to fill something that feels empty, or that we feel overwhelmed, or that we're not being served in some way. And so really it all comes down to that self-care, and just caring for yourself. Like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm not feeling good enough, or I'm angry, I'm not feeling supported. Like, okay, so what does make you feel supported? What does make you feel calm?
A pint of Ben&Jerry's ice cream.
That's right.
I'm just now thinking like, I do have a vice when I'm feeling frustrated. It's ice cream.
And what's funny, Beth, is that, and again, we all have those things. But, a lot of the time, talk about subconscious programming, a lot of the time that even comes back to, we relate it to, gosh, I had cake and ice cream on my birthday and I really felt loved on my birthday. And so your subconscious hangs on to that because it decided that ice cream's love, or cake's love, or, and there's all kinds of things with that. So it's really interesting because in your mind, the subconscious has decided that makes you feel supported, So it's super interesting. Yeah. I know. Cake is my vice.
Gosh, this is like such a crazy topic. We can totally go on forever. I have so many questions, but I know that we're going to have to wrap this up here pretty soon. So how about this? How about when crazy mom is feeling overwhelmed, or crazy busy mom, I should call her, not crazy mom. When she's feeling overwhelmed, when she's really having that anxiety about everything in her life, what's something that she can do really quick to just reground and just feel more comfortable and feel a little more calm? Is there anything?
Absolutely. There's so many things. There's a lot of things that we can do. And so outside of, trying to hold space for herself or some regular care, even if it's 5 minutes a week, doing something that's good for you, you're caring for yourself and that's good. But in the moment, there's so many things. So, and again, this might come down to what resonates with you, but, those deep belly breaths and, imagining breathing in and just sending that air down into your belly and breathing out and releasing the tension. If you're a feeler and you tend to feel yourself being really empathetic with others, it can help to, when you're breathing in, to breathe in whatever you feel like you're lacking, whether that's support or love or feeling good enough or feeling worthy or whatever that is. Patience for me. So a lot of the time, I will take the time and I'll just take 5 breaths and I will close my eyes. I'll go somewhere quiet for just a moment, even if the kids are yelling in the other room. I'll shut myself in the bathroom and turn on the fan where I can't hear it. And I will just, imagine breathing in patience and then breathing out my frustration or my judgment or my lack. And so that would be really good with somebody that's like a kinesthetic learner that needs to experience the feeling of things. But, if you're visual, you can imagine, I don't know, breathing in a color that you resonate with that feels, peaceful or whatever you need, and breathing out a color that's, represents the frustration or the stress. Another thing that you can do is, and there's so much coming up more recently to the science of grounding. I know you talked about grounding, but if you can just go out and like get your hands or your feet into the earth, it does a lot. And there are so many. We could probably even, if there's some links, I could send some, and we could post it. But there's a lot of science coming out to the importance of connecting with like our natural earth and the way that balances out our hormones, the chemicals in our body, inflammation. I mean, there is so much stuff. And your imagination, honestly, really, like whatever your learning style is, if you can use your imagination to support that, that is such a key. And I could go into that forever, but just a quick snippet of why is because, and they've run a lot of brain scans and brain imaging, and they found that when you are in imagination and when you're really there, your brain doesn't know any difference than you're actually experiencing that in real life. It behaves in all the same ways. And so if you can get really clear about what you want and focus your mind on that, even if it's just for a few minutes, and sometimes practice makes perfect. It might feel a little awkward at first, but even if you just do this for a few seconds, if that's all you have, you'll feel more supported. You will.
Yeah, that's good advice. And then again, I sound like a broken record. I know we can go on all day about this next question too, but how important is what Crazy Busy Mom eats and how much she sleeps? How important is that with all of this?
Super important. Super important. I could go on with, I'm in the middle of a holistic nutrition certification right now. So I'm kind of geeking out on nutrition right now. And I know this is Beth is super passionate about this area too. But nutrition is imperative. I mean, sugar creates stress, literally. I mean, there's again a ton of scientific evidence for this. But it literally creates inflammation. It does all kinds of stuff. Sugar is like, I always say, sugar's the devil. But
and that's not just cookies and cakes here, people. That's like, there's tons of sugar in things like ketchup and coffee. Depending on how much you eat in terms of carbs, lots of sugar there.
Oh yeah. Most carbs will go right to sugar. Like if you eat like French fries, that's sugar. A lot of the time that's worse than eating something like cake, depending on the cake even, actually, because there's nothing that your body can use to benefit you. If you eat a potato with skin, that's quite a bit different, because that, that has everything it needs to really break down and help you beneficial. So I just want to really, really encourage everybody to think about the importance of just everything we do, like we said, with as far as sugar goes, that has a huge impact on how we feel and what's supporting our body. I mean, far more than anybody has any idea. It's just really, it affects everything. It affects our hormones. It affects our energy levels. It affects our health. It affects sickness, our immune system, our gut, our brain, everything. And so what you're feeding they say you are what you eat, but there's so much evidence coming out now as to the implications of that and how very, very true that really is. And so even if if you're just looking, I actually do have a really good blog on kind of starting out small, like doing big things to start out small on my website. If you look under the blog area, and my website's www.elementalhealingcoaching.com. And I have a few blogs on there. And the one on nutrition is really beneficial because it gives some different ideas. Just, adding a smoothie, even if you do nothing to change your diet at first and you keep on doing all the same things, but you add smoothies, especially if they're powerful smoothies with a lot of superfoods, at least then you are getting all the extra nutrients, all the extra vitamins that will help you to support and process the bad stuff you are doing to your body.
That's a great point. And it's easy to make, easy to store. And for moms on the go, That's a good solution. It's
a huge solution. And you can eat all kinds of, you can make a lot of things that you don't like taste good in a smoothie. So that's kind of my go-to for getting all the veggies into my kids. And there's there's lots of veggies I do not really like. I'm going to be honest. And so you can put all those different veggies, whether they're leeks or I'm a big fan of bok choy and different veggies that have a lot of health benefits, especially greens. And if you don't like them, you can definitely put them in a veggie and cover them up with some bananas or, blueberries or things like that. And you get all the benefit of that. And like I said, there really is some good information on that blog. So yeah, there really is. And little things like drinking more water, that's huge. So that's all really important. Yeah.
How much do you suggest that an average size person drink in terms of water a day?
The suggestion is to drink your body weight. So, or half of your body weight, depending on how much you weigh. Because if you're extremely heavy and obese, you do need to drink more. And you don't need to, if you weigh 300 pounds, you're not needing to drink 300 ounces. That would be too much, right? So, you'd probably be fine at about a gallon at that point. So there's not usually any need to drink more than a gallon, but especially during the summer, you do, a lot of people even if you're lighter, you want to get closer, to that. So kind of the rule of thumb is, everybody says the 8 ounce glasses, but really that's not enough, for most people for you to really be hydrated. And actually on my blog, it talks a lot about water too, because it depends on the quality of water you have. And, not everybody is absorbing all the water because they don't have the nutrients and the minerals that they need in order to do so. And so that's why there's this kind of new push with pH, higher pH water. And there's a lot to be said for that, actually, because you're far more able to absorb it when there's, when there's the minerals in it. So.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, that was all absolutely amazing information. And I know, like I said, this podcast could be days long on this topic. But was there anything else that you didn't say that you wanted to share?
The only other thing that I wanted to share is just a lot of the time people get all this information and they don't know what to do with it. And I talked a lot about, what serves certain people and what doesn't. And some people get confused about that. And so I have a little exercise that I like to do with my clients a lot, quite often. I do it with a lot of clients. And that's just and you can do this at home. And it's just to go back to a time where you had like some type of feeling that you knew you could absolutely trust, whether that was yesterday or whether that was 5 years ago. And just get really clear about that feeling and how it feels and where you feel it and the words that would express it. And then get really clear about a time that you didn't listen to a feeling and that things went wrong and how yucky that felt. And the last time that was there and explore that feeling. So you want to explore both of them. And when you have that awareness of how things feel, you can usually use that to gauge if something's a good decision for you or not, if that makes sense. So that's usually a good way to say, like, is this going to be good for me? Am I feeling one way or the other? Is this feeling really yucky to me? Because a lot of the times we tend to want to make things happen because it feels good to somebody else when it doesn't feel good to us, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, totally. Well, Jillian, thank you again for being here with us. Where can our audience find out more about you?
They can go to www.elementalhealingcoaching.com. You're always, everybody's always welcome to reach out, on my business cell phone, which is also on my website. Of course, they can find me on Facebook. Same exact handle, facebook.com/Elemental Healing Coaching. Same with Instagram.
Awesome. All right, Mom Nation. Thank you so much for being here with us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And thanks for having me.